going to jump right in and get started on creating the shapes that we need for his head. So to begin the head, we need a couple of shapes. One is like a sort of oval or almond shape that has quite a bit of thickness to it. It's kind of a skill that you'll develop is, you know, how firm to make these things, and people tend to make things too thin without enough dimension rather than kind of fuller. And then another common sort of, I don't want to say it's an error, but something that can make felting difficult is if you give these sculptural shapes that we make on our surface, if you give them too much structure and too much felting, then it makes it hard to incorporate into your piece. You need to have a little bit of give to it so that when you felt it on, you can further shape it and felt it. So we'll start by making two cheeks, which use your core roving and pull kind of square pieces. They're about, you know, inch and a half square. And I like to do, if I'm doing two of something, I like to get the wool ready at the same time, because you can really feel that they are even. And then you can just kind of draw the oval in the center and pull all these extra fibers into that shape and go for as kind of thick and even of a shape as you can. I just changed my needles and I have like killer needles in here right now. They're really strong. I don't know what I put in. Okay, so there's one, and I'll go ahead and use this one. So you need two of those. And these are the first things we put on, and they're going to go, they are this kind of cheek here. And so they're going to go on the side of the head. Don't let them travel down the neck. You know, you don't want your cheeks on your neck, and your mouse doesn't want his cheeks on his neck. Keep them up on the head, and then let them stop right by, you know, right in front of this nose or tooth area. And try to keep them down a little bit. I don't want it going up over the top of his head. So I'm kind of coming in from the edges to get it on there. Not so much felting in the center of the piece, but more around the edges. And that, if you do that, that gives it more dimension as well. If you just felt always in the center, it just flattens it out. So I'll get the other one on. It's always hard to make things symmetrical. Gotta move your guy around, and I always try to keep him anchored on the surface because it just gives you a nice firm support for your needle felting. Okay, so we have two cheeks on, and the next shape that we need to make is a little, I call it a ghost shape. It's got a finished rounded edge and then a fringy bottom edge, and this is going to be his little chin. So using the off-white core, I get a piece a little smaller than the cheeks were, about maybe more like an inch by an inch. And I'm going to put some of the pretty white on it because I want it to end up just a nice white, a little more bright white. So just put a thin layer of that on top to whiten it up. So I'm going to flip this over because the side against the surface is usually the prettier side. So you want your pretty wool against the surface. And to make the ghost, I'm going to felt up and down to establish the center. I'm going to fold the top back to give it some dimension, and then begin folding the sides in and kind of concentrating them, you know, coming back. Kyla's stomach. We gotta leave that in. Oh, poor Kyla. She has a runny nose and she's trying so hard to be quiet. But her stomach just ratted her out. Alright, so this might be a little large, but I'm going to kind of pull it and roll it to thin it out a little bit. Sometimes you can kind of encourage the wool in a different direction if it doesn't turn out right the first time. Okay, so this piece is going to go between the teeth and the cheeks. And again, let this fringe come up under the cheeks, but don't felt the fringe down to his chest or he'll get wool lock. We want him to be able to move his head around. So just let it come up onto the sides of the cheeks. Alright, starting to look like something. Oh. I don't know what, something a little scary, but he's starting to look like something. Okay, we're going to make one more piece for the head, and it's also a ghost shape. It's kind of like a half circle, a little bigger than a quarter, and then the fringe, you know, comes back. This needs to be pretty well felted on the finished edge and fairly wide, because what we want to do with it, what we're making, is this whole muzzle. And so we want it to be able to go over the whole front like this. Now, it might not come down and cover the cheeks. That's okay. We'll put another piece there. But then what we do is we sculpt and shape it with the needles to create the nose. So to make this shape, I start with some core wool, a nice good 1.5 inches or 2 inches. I'm just gonna put another thin piece on top. I just want to make sure it's real consistent and thick. And then put some of the pretty gray on top, just a thin amount, just to get the color on there. And if you're using the supply kit, in the supply kit is this sort of medium gray brown, and the reason it's in there is if you wanted to put any variation in his coat, usually I would do it like sort of towards the nose. I did it on this piece. I put a little bit of this darker color on his nose. So I've got my pretty colors on top, and now I'm going to flip them over so the core wool's facing me. And I'm going to draw the half circle. So like I said, you got to kind of look at where you are with your mouse at this point. On mine it needs to be little wider than a quarter. And then I fold this edge in, and I want to finish the edge about little past halfway around. Okay, I'm going to do my own troubleshooting right here. It's too thin in here. It's all wimpy and thin. So I'm going to take a little bit of this from the back, put it back into the center, and firm it up a little bit. We don't want this to be super thick, but because it is going to kind of stand alone once it's on, we need it to be consistent. Okay, so there we go. And then to put it on, I want it to, basically, in the real world, this will cover his front teeth. So I want to make sure I leave myself enough to do that. So I'm going to start by tacking it on the sides where I think it should be. And tack the other side. Just let the loose stuff come back over his head, over his cheeks, over his head. Oh, he's cracking me up. Now, this is where you need to get creative, tap your inner sculptor, maybe look at some pictures online. Because right now he just sort of has this big duck bill shape. But what I want to do is, oh, I need a stronger needle than that. Take a single needle, put the dent in the middle. And really begin to sculpt this nose area. And, you know, this doesn't always, it's nice when something can happen in one piece, you know, one fell swoop, but sometimes you gotta add more, or these little teeth are cracking me up. All right, I'm gonna keep working on that a little bit. Okay, I just, you know, didn't do too much more. I just stabbed that a little bit more to try and shape it more. But after we do a couple more things, I might revisit it and see what else it needs. So next we need to set the eyes in and make the ears. So I think we just have one more video. I'll see you then.